It was late September last year, so I was driving back from a friend's wedding 2 towns over. It was already past midnight, and the 2-lane stretch of County Road 6 was darker than pitch. No streetlights, just my high beams cutting through the mist that had started rolling in. My phone had no signal. GPS was glitching, and the road twisted endlessly through woods, so dense they looked like solid walls on either side. Around 1:15 a.m., just past a broken mile marker, I saw him, a man standing on the side of the road. He wasn't waving, wasn't sticking out his thumb like most hitchhikers would, just standing, motionless, wearing a dirty flannel jacket, torn jeans, and no shoes. His head was tilted down like he was staring at the ground. His hair was long and matted. I slowed instinctively because that's what you do when you see someone in the middle of nowhere. As my headlights lit him up, I saw his hands. Both of them were clenched into fists, so tight it looked unnatural. I was about to drive past, but then something weird happened. My car stalled. Just as I pulled alongside him, my engine sputtered, coughed, and died completely. All the dashboard lights flickered out. I swore out loud, tried the ignition. Nothing. When I looked back out the driver's side window, he was gone, just vanished. My stomach dropped, but I hadn't heard him move. Not a single footstep. Then there was a sharp knock on my passenger side window. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head. He was standing there now, right outside the door, face still tilted down, his fists still clenched, breathing heavily enough to fog the glass. I didn't think. I just locked all the doors. His head twitched like he heard it. Then, finally, he lifted his face. I'll never forget it. His eyes weren't just wide, they were bulging. Blood vessels spiderwebbed across the whites like he hadn't slept for weeks. His skin was pale, cracked, with what looked like dried dirt or blood smeared across his mouth. And then, without breaking eye contact, he started slowly, grinning a long, stretched, crooked smile that reached too far up one side of his face. Asterisk, I don't know how long I sat frozen like that, but when I finally snapped out of it, I did the dumbest thing possible. I grabbed my phone. No bars. Course. By the time I looked back up, Kane scanned the side mirrors. Nothing. Checked the rear view. Empty. I even leaned forward to check right by the car. Nobody. It was like he'd melted into the night. I figured this was my one chance to try the ignition again. Atia. My hands shook so bad I could barely grip the key. It turned. The engine coughed and roared to life. I slammed the car into drive and floored it, but not even 30 seconds down the road, I saw him again, standing in the middle of the lane this time, directly in my headlights. I jerked the wheel to avoid him, swerved hard too, the right, and skidded straight off the asphalt into a shallow ditch. Mine airbag didn't deploy, but my head smacked the steering wheel hard enough to leave me dazed. I tasted blood when I lifted my eyes, blurry from tears and the hit. I saw him walking toward the car, deliberate, steps, slow, like he had all the time in the world. I scrambled out the driver's door, stumbling, and took off running into the woods. The undergrowth clawed at my clothes and skin, but I didn't stop. Somewhere behind me, I swear I could hear him laughing, a dry, raspy, broken sound that didn't seem to belong to a living person. Asterisk, I ran for what felt like forever. No flashlight, no phone signal, just instinct and terror pushing me forward. Finally, I came across an old hunting shack half collapsed, but better than staying exposed. I barricaded myself inside with broken furniture and waited somewhere deep in the woods. I could still hear footsteps now and then, crunching leaves, snapping twigs. I stayed there until first light. When the sun finally started breaking through the trees, I stumbled back toward the road. My car was gone, not just towed. No tire marks, no broken branches, no sign it had ever been there. Even the ditch I'd crashed into, smooth and undisturbed. When I finally made it to a gas station 2 miles down the road, I must have looked like hell, bloody, muddy, wide-eyed. The guy at the counter went pale when I told him what stretch of road I'd broken down on. His exact words: Jesus, not County Road 6. People stopped picking up hitchhikers out there years ago. Not after the murders. Not after him. I asked, after who? But he wouldn't say more. Just handed me a bottled water and told me to get a ride out of town. It's been months now, but even now, times when I'm driving late at night, I'll glance in the rearview mirror. Will swear I see him sitting in my back seat for just a second, head tilted, fists clenched, and smiling. Asterisk. It happened just 6 months ago, late January. I was driving back from a work conference in a neighboring state. It was nearly midnight, and the highway was practically empty. I took a detour through a rural stretch to avoid construction delays on the main interstate. That's when I ended up near Red Bridge Road, a place I'd never driven before. There weren't any streetlights, just my headlights cutting through the fog that had started to settle low across the asphalt. About 5 miles in, guy walking along the shoulder, barely visible, wearing a faded gray hoodie with the hood up, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. I slowed almost automatically. I don't know why. Something about seeing another human being on that desolate road at that hour felt comforting. I pulled over, cracked the passenger side window just enough. "Hey, you need a ride somewhere?" I asked. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there with his head down. Then, without a word, he walked around and climbed into the passenger seat. The air changed the second he shut the door. It got cold. It's like unnaturally cold. I asked where he was headed. He just said one thing: just up the road. His voice was hoarse, low, like he hadn't spoken in days. I didn't push for details. I just started driving. But as we went, I noticed something that still sends chills down my spine when I think about it. Every time I glanced at him, he was staring at me. Not glancing, not looking out the window, just staring. MBLINKING. At one point, I caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, and I swear, his eyes looked completely black. Asterisk. About 10 minutes in, he suddenly said, "Here." I looked around. We were in the middle of nowhere. No houses, no driveways, just dense woods on either side of the road. "Here?" I asked. He nodded, slow and deliberate. Not wanting to argue, I pulled over. He opened the door, but didn't get out right away. He just sat there, like he was waiting for something. That's when I noticed something strange on his hoodie sleeve. There were dark stains. It's like dried blood, all down one arm. Before I could say anything, he finally stepped out. But here's the part I still can't explain. The moment both his feet hit the ground, he was gone. Not like he ran. Not like he walked off quickly into the woods. I mean, 1 second he was there, and the next, the seat was empty and the door stood wide open. I jumped out, looked around with my phone flashlight. Nothing. No sound. No footprints in the dirt. I stood there, heart pounding, too scared to get back in the car, but too terrified to stay outside. Eventually, I forced myself to drive off. glancing nervously in the rear view every few seconds. I swear, for a split second, I saw him standing back where I picked him up. Same hoodie, same posture, like he'd never gotten in my car at all. Asterisk, I barely slept that night. Even after locking all the doors and turning every light in my apartment on, I felt watched. I started researching the next morning. Turns out, Red Bridge Road has a reputation. Over the last 20 years, several people have reported seeing a lone hitchhiker there late at night. Always wearing gray, always silent, and the stories, they never end well. Car accidents, missing persons, mental breakdowns. Some people who picked him up said they started seeing him standing by the road every night after that, no matter where they drove, even hundreds of miles away from Red Bridge. Others said their dreams were haunted by the sound of someone knocking on their bedroom. It's been half a year now, but I still get that feeling when I drive at night. Like someone's sitting in the passenger seat, watching me. Sometimes I'll catch my reflection in the side mirror, and for just a second, there's a second pair of black eyes staring back at me. And every time I pass a lonely stretch of road, I can't help but wonder if he's waiting for me to stop again. Asterisk. It happened this past February, just a few months ago. I was driving home after a late-night work shift. Around 1:30 a.m., the route I usually took was closed for repairs, so GPS redirected me down an old rural road called Miller's Stretchabout. 12 miles of cracked pavement running between two small towns. I had barely been on that road 5 minutes when I saw her, a girl, maybe in her early 20s, standing near the mile marker sign. Right at the edge of the tree line, she was wearing a light, sleeveless white dress, completely wrong for the cold winter night. Her arms were wrapped tight around herself like she was freezing. I slowed down, rolled the window down just a crack. "Hey, you okay? You need a ride?" She nodded without looking at me. Her hair hung over her face, and I couldn't see her expression. Normally, I'd be more cautious about picking up a stranger at night, but something about her seemed desperate, vulnerable. I unlocked the door. She climbed in silently, sat stiffly, and stared straight ahead. I asked where she was headed. She just whispered, "Anywhere away from here." Her voice was paper-thin, barely audible as I pulled back onto the road. I kept glancing over at her. That's when I noticed her bare feet. No shoes, toes scraped and bruised like she'd been walking for miles. Goosebumps crept up my arms. I kept driving. Asterisk, the farther we drove, the stranger things felt. I tried to break the tension with small talk. "Were you at a party or something? Out here all alone?" I asked. No answer. After a few minutes of awkward silence, she finally said something in this slow, almost robotic tone. She said, "He follows cars that stop here." It tilted slightly, and I realized she was staring into the rear view mirror. I checked the mirror reflexively. It's nothing but darkness. I forced a nervous laugh. "Who follows cars?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she said, "You shouldn't have stopped." That's when my headlights flickered out. Then, just for a second, swear I saw something. A figure, running on the side of the road, keeping pace with my car at 45 miles an hour. But when I blinked and looked again, it's gone. The girl didn't even flinch. Her breathing grew shallow and fast. Suddenly she grabbed my arm with ice-cold fingers and said, "Don't look in the rear view. No matter what you hear, don't look back." Her grip was so tight it hurt. I kept driving, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. But then, from the back seat, I heard breathing. Heavy, slow, labored breathing. I swear to God, I hadn't picked anyone else up. Asterisk, my mind went blank with panic. I didn't dare check the mirror. I just focused on the yellow lines on the road, and tickles turning white on the steering wheel. But the breathing behind me got louder and closer until he sounded like it was right next to my ear, even though no one was there. And then, scratching light at first, then more aggressive, coming from inside the car. The girl beside me started crying softly, whispering to herself over and over, "Don't look, don't look, don't look." I was shaking, but I didn't stop driving. I pushed the speed up to 70, then 80. Branches blurred past. Road signs were just smears of color. I just needed to reach town about 2 miles out from the city limits. The headlights flickered again. And suddenly everything went quiet. The breathing stopped. The scratching gone. The girl sat still, staring straight ahead, completely silent. When I finally pulled into a gas station on the outskirts of town, I turned to check on her. The passenger seat was empty, door still locked. No sign she'd ever been there. Not even a dent in the seat cushion. I sat there, stunned, hyperventilating, till the station attendant knocked on my window. He took one look at my face and asked if I'd come in off Miller's Stretch. When I nodded, he just shook his head slowly and said, "You're lucky you made it out. People don't usually come back when they stop for her." A teen asks questions. A teen, I just drove home. I haven't taken that road since, but some nights, when I'm driving late, my passenger seatbelt light blinks on, even when I'm alone. Asterisk. It happened this past April. I was driving back from a friend's bachelor party in a neighboring town. It was just after 2 a.m., and I was taking Route 42, a long, mostly abandoned stretch of road that cuts through farm country. The air was cold and damp. My windows kept fogging, and the road was empty for miles. About 20 minutes in, I saw him, a man standing on the shoulder, right under the flickering glow of a broken streetlight near the old train tracks. He wasn't doing the usual hitchhiker thing. No thumb out, no waving dot. Just standing there, completely still, facing the road with his head down. I slowed almost instinctively. I don't know why. Maybe I felt guilty leaving someone stranded out there that late at night. When I stopped and leaned over to call out, he didn't move. I hesitated. But something in me, some stupid late night instinct, told me to unlock the door anyway. He climbed in without a word. His clothes were strange dirty slacks, a torn button-up shirt that looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks, and something about him smelled off. Wet dirt and metal. "Where you headed?" You just muttered, low and hoarse. "Straight ahead." The way he said it, flat, like it wasn't a destination, just a direction. I pulled back onto the road, his hands suddenly trembling on the steering wheel. Asterisk, the longer he sat there, the colder the air in the car got. I turned off the AC, but it didn't help. The tempo just kept dropping. I tried making small talk to ease the tension. "Been out here long?" Answer. "Live around here?" It's nothing. I finally glanced over at him. That's when my heart nearly stopped. His head was still down, but now I could see more of his face, or what should have been his face. His skin looked grayish, like old wax, and where his eyes should have been, there were just 2 sunken, empty, black holes, deep, dark pits, where his eyes should have been staring back at me. I almost slammed on the brakes right there, but something told me, don't stop the car, so I just kept driving, my eyes fixed dead ahead, pretending I hadn't seen it. I could feel him looking at me, somehow, like those empty sockets still watched me. burning holes into my skin. Then he spoke again. Next, left. I didn't even remember seeing any roads nearby, but right then, a narrow dirt path appeared through the trees. I drove past it anyway, pretending I hadn't heard. That's when he finally turned his head fully toward me and said, in a voice twice as loud, twice as broken, I said, "Next left." Key. The radio flickered on by itself, static screaming from the speakers. I hit the gas and didn't slow down. Asterisk, I drove faster than I ever had. Didn't look back. Didn't speak. Just gripped the wheel and kept going. The static kept getting louder. The air inside the car felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Every few seconds, I swore I saw movement in the rearview mirror, like something was writhing in the back seat. At one point, I felt a cold hand brush the back of my neck. That broke me. I swerved to the side of the road, jumped out of the car without even turning off the engine. Ran like my life depended on it. I don't know how far I went, maybe half a mile before. I heard my car engine cut out behind me. When I finally worked up the nerve to go back, the car was there, engine off, doors locked and empty. The passenger seat was totally undisturbed, like no one had been there at all. But the thing that's haunted me since is on the inside of my windshield were 2 streaks, smears, as if someone with soaking wet hands had pressed their palms hard against the glass. From the inside, I sold the car the following week, and to this day, I refuse to drive that stretch of Route 42, even in broad daylight, because every once in a while, I'll see people post online about a man with no eyes hitchhiking near those old train tracks, still waiting for someone else dumb enough to stop. Asterisk. It was late March this year. I was driving home from my cousin's place after helping him move some furniture. It was close to 2 a.m. The easiest route back to my town was Hollow Creek Road, a narrow, winding stretch of back road I always hated using at night. The locals around here avoid it after dark. Too many stories, car accidents, missing people, weird sightings. But I was tired and figured I'd be fine. About 3 miles in, I saw her, a woman standing by the guardrail near one of the sharpest bends on the road. She was wearing a light blue dress, the kind you'd see someone wearing to a summer picnic. But it was barely above freezing that night. Her long, stock hair was plastered to her face, like she'd been crying or caught in the rain. But the road was bone dry. I slowed down, rolled the window down halfway. "You okay? You need a ride?" called out. For a few seconds, she didn't respond. Then, without even looking up, she nodded slowly, something about the way she moved, like her body was on autopilot against my better judgment. I unlocked the door. She climbed in, her movements stiff, mechanical. I glanced at her hands. They were shaking. "Bad. Where to?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Her voice came out soft and hoarse, barely more than a whisper. "Just past the next bridge." That meant the old Hollow Creek Bridge, a spot known for fatal wrecks going back decades. But I kept driving, trying to ignore the sudden, freezing draft filling my car. Asterisk. As we drove, I noticed 2 things almost immediately. First, the air inside the car got colder with every mile. And second, she never once looked at me. Not when she spoke. Not when I asked if she was hurt. Not even when I glanced at her out of the corner of my eye. Her gaze stayed locked on the road ahead, wide-eyed, unblinking. When we got close to Hollow Creek Bridge, my headlights flickered. Just for a second, I gritted my teeth, muttered a curse, and kept going. That's when she spoke again. Don't stop on the bridge. Her voice sounded different this time. It's like two voices layered over each other. One hers, and another, deeper, male, almost growling underneath. My stomach dropped. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. I pushed the gas harder, speeding across the bridge. But halfway over, something slammed against the side of my car, hard enough to make me swerve. I snapped my head toward the passenger side window and saw a face pressed against the glass from the outside. A pale, bloated face with black, empty eyes and a mouth wide open in a silent scream. I didn't even have time to scream myself. I floored it, tires screeching as I tore off the bridge and back onto the main road. When I finally dared look at the passenger seat, a tweeze. No woman, no trace she'd ever been there. Asterisk, I didn't stop driving until I hit the first gas station 10 miles out. Parked under the floodlights, sat in my car, shaking, trying to catch my breath. I checked the passenger seat, floorboards, back seat, nothing. But when I looked at the passenger side window, there was still a greasy, foggy imprint of a face, exactly where I saw it pressed against the glass back on the bridge. I stood there for almost 15 minutes, swiping it over and over, but the outline wouldn't fade. I ended up driving home, with it still there. For days afterward, I kept catching glimpses of someone in my rearview mirror whenever I drove at night. A shadowy figure sitting in the back seat, staring. Always gone when I turned around. 2 weeks later, I finally broke down and asked my cousin about Hollow Creek Road. He went pale when I told him about the woman in the blue dress. Jesus, you stopped for her, he said. You know people around here say she died on that bridge almost 15 years ago. Car wreck. They never found her body. Folks say if you pick her up, something else gets in the car with her. Sold the car since. But sometimes, late at night, I still dream about that bridge and about something still sitting behind me, waiting for me to glance in the mirror again.